Nō reira, tēnei te mihi kia koutou e te whānau, kua tai mai nei I tēnei ai makariri, I tēnei ata makariri. Nō reira, ko tēnei kaupapa whakahiri, me ngā Whakaora Whakatūwhera I ngā wāhi o te marae nei. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia tai mai nei. I tēnei wā, ka maumahara o rātou tīpuna, o wehi atu ki tō te arai, nō reira, te tini me te mano, uki atu rā. Rātou ki a rātou, tātou te hua roa ki a tātou. Thanks everybody for coming along today. So today's session, I guess, is a number of things. One is about speaking to the family around the discussions that we've had over a period of time around what we can do to enhance our marae and keep it as the place that we've always loved and treasured for almost 100 years now. So part of that, you can see the agenda that's up there, but just giving you a brief background, and I'll do that of some of the work we've done over the years. And then more importantly, to hand the session over to Alex, who will take us through what the latest phase of this thing is, which is for a number of years, we've been wanting to install new ablutions and a new wharekai. This year we've secured some funding to be able to take a look at it. So this is the kickoff. But without further ado, I'll just go through it. Do you mind if I sit down?
No.
Run it? And I'll have my back to you. Yeah, I just need to run my laptop.
Where's the vote?
Thank you, guys. So just the agenda for the day. I will be giving a brief background to date and then hand it over to Alex around the development part of it. There's a number of questions or considerations that we wanted to put to the whānau. So that's going to lead to some workshop sessions. We only may have the one group, but there are some things that we definitely need to discuss further. Somewhere in there we'll also have lunch and then have a discussion around what our findings were and also on the next steps. So that's the agenda for today. And hopefully you've all got Alex did print out some copies of this presentation deck here.
Yep,
So that's for you to make notes on. But just running through the background of our marae development planning. So it actually started back in 2014, where there was a marae development subcommittee set up. It was actually set up in 2013, but we started most of the work in 2014. So that was looking at what we should be doing with the marae, what our priorities were or anything. So the start, it was the genesis of that development plan was in 2014. And the version of it wasn't complete until last year. So to inform us with the development plan, back in 2015, we had a whole series of wānanga. So that there was multiple goals from out of those wānanga. A lot of it was around about just connecting our disparate, so spread all over the place whānau back to the homeland. And then, you know, a couple of sessions were also devoted around finding what were the issues around Whakakapi and what were the needs for around Whakakapi, and then what were our you know, our wants. If we're dreaming away there, what were we looking to see? So the Wānanga gave us a lot of information to inform us about our development plan. We also had a couple more in 2017 and 2018, just to recap and refresh on those, but you know, the needs come out surprisingly the same as the earlier sessions. A few years ago, there was an approach to the Marae Committee to set up a ablutions subcommittee. So coming out of those Wānanga we had, you know, there's a lot of fix-up work around the marae that was mentioned. And then, you know, the key things were we need to do something around our kota and maybe wharekai as well. And we need to do something around our ablutions. So based on that, there was a subcommittee set up in 2017, but when they started looking at things, as we've found out, if you want to progress any of these plans, and especially since it's a new build, you do have to have your a marae development plan complete if you want to go to seek funding from those organisations that fund work from that. So typically DIA, the Department of Internal Affairs, and Te Puni Pōkere. So those are the two bodies that provide, you know, marae with the opportunity to apply for funding to support whatever endeavours they want to do around their marae. So that led to a couple of things. One was at the end of 2019, we did just do a walk around to look at the fix-up aspects of things. And we were fortunate enough that last year when, as a result of COVID, the government made funding available for a Whakaora Marae program. So we made a submission application to that program, which was approved. So it's taken us a while to get traction in terms of getting the actual work done on that. But I'm happy to say, and I'll go over what the brief of Whakaora Marae is. I'm happy to say that that work will be commencing on Monday. And then the other portion of it, the Oranga Marae, so Whakaora Marae, they had criteria where the work the type of work and scope was non-consented, so it wasn't for any new builds or big builds. Instead, that sort of stuff has to go through Oranga Marae. And that's what's led us here today. Earlier this year, we put in an application to Oranga Marae. And for that, I've reached out to our niece, Alex Heperi, and that's her mum, sitting next to her there, our cousin Annie. Yeah, Alex is an architect, so I reached out to her in terms of where they could assist us. So we applied for funding in conjunction with the company that Alex works for. So just moving on.
Hey, Cuz, can I just add something in? Kia ora tātou. Just reiterating that this work isn't new, it's gone back. I remember when we were still on the Marae Committee, Uncle Robert, a few others of us. So when Puerta was around, we were always talking about the ablutions and the wharekai. It was the same with Uncle Hui. When Papa Hui was the chair, we had a huge conversation way back then about how to improve our marae, and I know wharekai and ablution blocks were one of the talking points. So it's a conversation that's gone back mai rānō, and this is where we finally gotten to. So kia ora, that's me.
Yeah, thank you, Cuz, for that. So yeah, you're dead right. It's been a conversation that's going on for years. In fact, one thing I didn't timeline, which was quite remiss of me. Oh yes, I did. So we did work around Marae DIY in 2016. So pointing to what Cuz said, You know, we got a bit of pushback from doing that marae DIY work because of the, you know, because others wanted to see priority put to the ablutions and the wharekai. It's really great that we're now able to get to that stage. So briefly, just from out of that, the development plan, what popped up is what the status of our marae was and what the needs of our marae was. So there were repairs and renovations to the whare nui and wharekai. You'll see that there's some outside work that wasn't finished off as part of marae DIY, which is now going to get done. So that covers some of the building compliance work that still needs to be complete. Now, there's a whole thing around fire safety that Alex will also speak to. We're going one step further than where we are, but it's not quite where we need to be. Then, you know, there was always this talk around the new ablutions, a new wharekai, and also around papakainga in terms of the longer term needs. So those are all types of things that have been discussed that our whānau have told us that as a committee we look into. So when we're looking at our development plan, when we're looking at so there's a few things within the development plan. It's not all around buildings. I won't touch on the other aspects that are listed up there, but if we just have a look at the buildings, the approach was to do the whare nui enhancements first, all those minor fixes that we need around here, which is going to happen as part of our Whakakaora Marae work. And then it was to take a look at the ablutions and wharekai, which is a new piece of work and reasonably more complex. And somewhere along that journey also it was to take a look at papakainga on the marae. So that's definitely another phase which is yet to come. Any questions on that?
From that time we sat down and first thrashed all that out, a lot of needs have changed from there to now. So probably we'll get into the needs of today when we get along into the planning.
Yes, yeah. And you know, today's session is really just another step in the journey. It is quite a long journey. I mean, for this aspect of us deciding what we're looking for in terms of wharekai, and just having a good idea of that is going to take the rest of the year.
Yeah,
having.
I'm talking about papakainga.
Yeah.
Because I know Ryan's view on papakainga.
Yeah.
Because he did say to me that he loves it in town. He's near the doctor. He's, you know, he was here and he forgot the milk. He's got to either get a ride in or get someone to get it, but he's happy where he is.
Yes.
And I think a lot of other nannies would be, you know, for those papakaingas to be here, who for the young people or the old people.
Kia ora, Cass. Yeah, that's right. And we'll definitely be looking at that once we start on. But that need, to your point, needs do change over time, and we always need to take a look at what they are at this point in time. So just briefly to talk around what the scope of the Whakaora Marae work is. Or if you have a look outside, you'll see that there's a bit of external finishing work around doors and windows, also underneath eaves in there that need to be complete before we can obtain a code of compliance. This is from the Mihi that was done as part of Marae DIY. The other, when we did our walk round year before last, one need that was coming through was to install storage seats. So some of you have seen them at Marae, where they're just a bench type thing, and we're going to install them down the back side, down the back of our whare nui on both sides. That's part of the work that's for next week. And also along the back of the stage as well.
So they only store pillows, eh?
Hey,
They only store pillows?
they can, for the ones down here, they can store, you know, it's for people who are coming in here to stay. So one option is just to provide extra seating on the side there.
Yeah.
And then the other is for those who are staying the night to be able to store their bags and whatnot and those sort of things.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of finishing work that needs to be done in the men's toilet from the urinals that were taken away. We're extending the storage shelves in the mattress room. So the ones that are currently there, they're going to go now the full width of the mattress room, and it's so that we can lie our whānau down instead of having them rolled up. We're going to put our low wooden fence that's outside there. We're going to put some tops on those so people can use them for seating. They do. There's some more lining in the coater that needs to happen. And also putting a fire alarm system in here in the wharenu. So that's part of the step on the way where we need to get to because people sleep here.
And to get it to compliance.
Yes, although that's the advice that we were given by council. We need to get to install a fire alarm system. In fact, as our niece will tell you, we actually have to have sprinklers in here because we use it for sleeping. But when we put in an application for Whakaora Marae funding, that's what we had scoped out there, was to put in the fire alarm system. Okay. So that's the work that's going to start on Monday. And yeah, I'll talk to a couple of the cousins about being able to support that work here. But there's a team that's going around Marae at the moment doing this work. So Morris Tipuki is coming here with his crew. And there's also a cadet crew that's part of doing all this work around the Rohe, who will be coming on site to assist. Okay, any questions on that?
So when you put the alarm systems in, then I suppose you're going to have a whole water system, like the tank system.
So alarm is just the alarm. When you put the sprinkler system in, yes, that does need to be connected to that. As Alex will speak to it, but it actually needs its own water system. That's enough to run the system when it's needed. So that is an extra.
Because I know at Omahu, they've had to take their heaters out. They had heaters, picture heaters on them.
Right.
Yeah, they had to take that out because
Part of safety then. Right. Any other questions around that one? So we moved on to talking around the new type of development, and specifically around the ablution block and wharekai that we've been talking about. So at this stage, I'm going to hand it over to Alex.
It'll be on a timer.
Who's pulled together this work here. So kia ora niece, it's all yours.
It's probably the full plug monitor.
All right, good whānau. So my name's Alex Hefferty, and my grandparents are Alice and Teddy Mungo. So I studied architecture at Victoria University from 2011 till 2014, I think. So ever since then, I've been in and out of the industry. So the company I work for is a nationwide company. It's based in Wellington, but I'm from their Napier branch. And the projects I've worked on ranges from things for the Ministry of Education or Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the Hawke's Bay Airport. A lot of civic things for different councils around New Zealand and things like that. And we're currently doing Waimarama Marae as well as Te Whānau Marae. Yeah, and quite a few papakainga for different whānau around New Zealand. So the Oranga Marae program, so like Uncle Bob said, that's between Te Puni Kōkiri and Department of Internal Affairs. So essentially Oranga Marae is to enhance and revitalise marae, whether it's tangible or non-tangible. So you can apply for funding for things such as your building infrastructure or even wānanga sessions to enhance the te reo and other things of the marae. So what we applied for earlier this year was for the technical feasibility support. So we decided to split it into 2 stages just so that we did it properly and we could get as much as we could out of each stage. So we're at stage 1 at the moment. So what we're doing is we're reviewing and assessing the existing buildings, the site, the whole site, as well as the infrastructure. It's a bit hard to design something if you don't know what's already there. So we thought we may as well assess and review everything as best as we can and then go from there. So whatever we find through the assessments, that will determine what the master plan is or what the next stages will be, essentially. And then the next stage, that will be when we actually design the buildings. And that will be for the building consent. And then the last stage, so that's a different funding round as well. And that will be the build. So that's the construction phase. Okay. So within stage 1 is the initial site visit review and the preliminary documentation. So that's pretty much one of my senior colleagues and I, we came up a few weeks ago and we went through each of the buildings and around the site and we did a condition assessment report. So that's when we took photos of the defects or just the condition of everything on the site and took notes as well. And then we have documented the existing buildings. And then these concept options and site master plan. So that's what Uncle Aaron uploaded onto the Facebook page. So that's those A3 options in front of you. So this is a very iterative process. So it's going to take a lot of different cuts at it to get to where we want to be, but that's normal. I'm partway through the condition assessment at the moment and hope to get that out within the next few weeks, just so we can see what the current condition of the hall as well as the wharekai and the kitchen and the site and infrastructure are. So I guess what we're hoping for from today is just a more detailed project brief that we can then go to our consultants, which are different types of engineers, and so that they can come to site and do their bit. So our scope is just small in the grand scheme of things, essentially. So just a bit of explanation, the topo survey, so he's the one who comes and see what the site is doing. And then the civil engineer, he'll come and he'll look what, for example, he does the roading, the pipe work underground. The environmental engineer, he does things like the effluent system, water, things like that. The fire engineer, they come and assess the buildings to check it's compliant with fire. And the geotech, that's soil testing. Yeah.
And testing?
Soil. Yeah, so that's soil and land testings to check the quality of the earth. Services engineer, so that's things like lighting or heating, ventilation, air conditioning, things like that. And the structural engineer, so that's the structure. So that's like piles and foundations and just the structure of the buildings as well. So that's all in this stage.
Like lots of engineers involved.
Yeah, there's engineer for everything, yeah.
Well, it wouldn't take them more than a day because half of that stuff we haven't got.
Exactly, yes, yeah.
Never.
Okay, just a brief look at the timeframes. So stage one, we're aiming to have that stage, all of the previous slide completed by December. So Whānau Marae, they have another funding round that closes on the 10th of January. So if we can complete this stage by December, then we can apply for stage 2 in January. And then I think it takes about a month for them to approve it. And then hopefully by March, the funding will come through. Then we can start stage 2. Yeah, and then
So in stage 2 is really about the detailed planning in hay. We've
Yes,
sorted on
yeah.
what the master plan may look like, and then we're talking about what we may need in a new wharekai.
yeah, so
That
essentially if
needs
you
to be, etc.
yeah, if you think about it, this is an example. If you think about a map, and then right now we're looking at all of Whakakapi, but on the next stage, we'll just be looking at the marae. Yeah, but if you just apply that to, we're looking at the whole side of the marae, not just the buildings, yeah.
So basically, we just wait for all our engineering reports and then go from there, isn't it? Ain't really?
Yeah, yeah. So we're currently working through all we have from architectural, but we do need a bit more of a brief. But then yeah, then we need to run to the engineers and see what they say. Yeah. We just do that. You don't have to do it that way, but we find it safer so that you don't have to backtrack if you go designing something that's not even fit for the site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about applying for Whānau Hui funding for stage 2.
Mhm.
And then down there it says stage 2 to be confirmed
Yeah.
on the completion. So by the time we're applying for Whānau Hui funding in 2022,
Yeah.
we should have stage 2 ready to be funded.
Yeah, we'll have like a brief of what we want stage 2 to be.
Yeah.
So usually, so for example, how this worked was Uncle Bob saw me at the Māori Housing Conference, and it was about a week and a half before the cut-off date. And he asked us to provide pricings for how much we estimate stage 1 would cost. And because we had already done a few for other marae, we were able to give estimates. And then, yeah, we use those estimates to get the funding that we needed for this stage. Right, yeah.
This is stage 1.
Yeah, stage 1, yeah. So since I'm only halfway through the summary of the condition assessment, this is just a draft of what some of the potential issues or things that we need to look at are. So with the hall, the issues with the health and safety compliance are mainly due to the accessibility or the ventilation. So the accessibility, we did get accessible entry through the Marae DIY, but there's no accessible toilets on site. Yeah, so that's the accessibility. And in terms of the ventilation, for buildings, you need a certain percentage of the floor area to be opening windows or mechanical ventilation. And these are the, and doors don't count, unfortunately. So these are the only 2 windows that this big area has. But that can be remediated quite easily through either increasing the window area or a mechanical extract system or just ventilation just to get the flow of air going through the space. The weather tightness issues, so those are going to be remediated through the Whakaora Marae. Yep, so hopefully those will be all fixed, so we won't need to deal with those. Yeah, but currently they're just things like some of the wall cladding, there's no wall cladding, so some of the timber framing's exposed and building paper. Not, yeah, so that's getting damp. The fire compliance. This is an interesting one. Uncle Bob actually sent me through the fire report that was done. And because we're engaged by other marae, there's a regulation in the fire code that an area that sleeps more than 40 people it has to have a sprinkler system. And this is a very big, this seems way more than 40 people. And so it appears that the previous person assessing the building, it wasn't assessed under the right category. So the smoke alarms that they suggested was to a different standard essentially. So now that we know that this is actually for sleeping, it probably will require a sprinkler system, and like Auntie Annette said, they do require a lot of water, and so they do require at least 1 to 2 full tanks of water on site, on standby at all times. So yeah, water in those tanks is just.
Is that the only system we can use? I'm just thinking maybe 2 tanks of water.
Yeah.
I mean, a sprinkler system uses a lot of water. I'm just thinking about the damage
Yeah.
into the building, to the artwork, to the whāriki that could happen with a sprinkler system.
Mm.
You know, I know we can't do this, you know, the type of fire systems they have in a museum so that nothing gets damaged.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we can't have that here, but is a sprinkler system the only legal system we can have?
I'll have to check with the fire engineer. Yeah, so typically for this scope, this is out of my scope of work. So we generally engage a fire engineer who
That would be
will
really
assist
good,
us.
because that's the damage to a building as old, to our whāriki, to the walls, to the art, I think would be a really big issue in any marae.
Yeah.
I think that's why Mihi took the heaters out.
No, I'm talking about the sprinkler system.
Yeah, so they got the sprinkler systems in because they had to, but they took all their heating out.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm just worried about the sprinkler only, that the damage of sprinkler
Yeah.
system.
So what did they say? Nothing.
I think, Kasi Rita, there's nothing wrong with us thinking about how we protect those our whāriki now, without having to wait for. We can do some thinking around how we, if there is no other alternative than a water-based sprinkler system, there's nothing wrong with us thinking about how we protect the whāriki now, in case we don't have a choice.
Yeah, they've had it there on the floor. though.
So do the sprinklers have to go way back into the mattress room?
I'd say, yep.
But you might have the whārikis down, you know, that's
People could.
Yeah.
people lying on them, yeah.
I'm not too sure, but I do know that since mattresses are highly flammable, they cannot be stored in like an open area like this. That's why most marae are kind of separating their mattresses from their main space. All these things.
Ignorance is bliss.
Sorry, Clyde.
Dragging us into the.
And I'd say beware thinking it's not the material things, but the life. They're worrying about the life.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah. Another thing in terms of the fire also is that there's certain wall finishes that are more flammable than others. So for example, that plywood wall at the back, that's quite flammable. So we would have to coat it with some sort of intermittent or not fire prone material. Yeah, you can get them. They could be like a paint system. Yeah, so that one's easily fixed. But one other thing also for the fire, while we're on the fire topic, there's actually no proper ceiling. And insulation.
What do you mean?
We like that, wasn't
It doesn't leak.
it's you. No, but it catches fire.
Great way to
Oh, no, we love
All our
that.
money.
We're putting it on the heritage list.
Well, that's okay. There are a few ways that we can go around that.
Yeah.
But we just need to separate the main space from the insulation, essentially. So there needs to be a barrier so that if there was fire, it wouldn't kind of just be engulfed by all the bats in the room. Yeah. Okay, that's enough on that topic. We'll move on to structural. probably are quite a few things structurally that could be remediated on the hall as well, like the floor.
No, they're beautiful.
Yes, the floor is beautiful. It's a bit, yeah, so it is a bit like it's a bit characterised.
No one's fallen over one of the waves.
But that can be remediated through looking at the files or seeing what's happening under the building, because it's probably not flooring. It is most likely the original foundations underneath it.
It's pushy up.
Yes, right, yeah, exactly. So that's the hall. The wharekai in the kitchen. There's quite a few issues around the hygiene and food preparation requirements for a commercial kitchen.
Again, for commercial kitchens, though, eh? Yeah.
There's no hand basins in there, I don't think.
It becomes a bit tricky, you know, when we even when we host things like the Aniwa AGM coast. There's quite a big thing. I mean, that's sort of moved beyond the whānau, and you know, if they had come in to our kouta when we're hosting like that AGM doing food prep, we'd fail on that.
Yeah,
We've got no hand
yeah, but
basins.
if you go back to health and safety, you're not selling food on our marae.
No,
That's
that's
when
right.
that comes in.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
Well,
not,
it does come in when you're
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
premises for commercial type
That's
reasons,
right.
like, and that would be happen when we host these external meetings, like for the Aniwa AGM and stuff.
yeah, but
Yeah.
we're still not selling.
Yes.
When
Yeah.
we're not being used as a commercial.
Like your feeding them.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but
We-
I
we
know,
should-
and I know, Whānau, but I'm just trying to say, we're not,
That's right.
Yeah.
for those who we are a commercial.
Yeah, I think, yeah, probably maybe a different use of the word, because it's definitely not a residential kitchen.
Well, it's not a healthy kitchen. put it
No,
that
it's
way.
not compliant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we know that.
there's a few with there's a few with the tightness issues as well with some of the claddings, so some of the claddings, the flashings, it's just not protective of the elements essentially.
Yeah.
The accessibility also.
Just say it, it's drafty, it's cold.
Yeah.
Do it like this.
But we're getting a new one, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
there you go.
That's right.
Well, that's our decision.
We'll let it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that one. The infrastructure. So Uncle Bob showed us where the effluent
Yes.
system currently is.
To condemn one.
Yes. I didn't know that's what it was. But yeah, we'll send our environmental up.
But I don't tell them about that. It costs us a fortune.
And the stormwater and the water tank. So Uncle Bob told us that the stormwater from this building currently runs off into the creek through the underground channel. And the one from the wharekai goes into that concrete tank.
No, it's all the tanks at the factory.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So that one goes over there.
We have
Okay.
3 big tanks at the factory.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
4. I've seen about.
Yeah, so the engineers, when they come, they'll assess all of those things, but the site, everyone kind of knows that it's very low lying. It's not a very high site, and so that it is prone to flooding. And so there are a few options in terms of future proofing or remediating from the potential risk of a flood. And so those options, because the scope that we're already doing is so big, now would be the time to think about doing those. Yeah, I mean, if we were literally just doing the bathroom, then it probably wouldn't, but we're thinking about doing quite a lot of work here. So, yeah, now's the time to start thinking about flood remediation.
So hopefully they'll go through and they go, oh, these poor people. We'll give it.
Exactly, that's kind of how Whānau Marae works. If it has anything to do with health and safety, or there's a real risk on the marae, they kind of bump you to the top of the list. So that's, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
geez, we're already
there.
So what's fixable? Yeah.
PK know this, Marae, they've been here when it's flooded.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of that flooding, like here's an example would be lifting the buildings a few hundred millimeters so that they're not directly on the ground. Yeah, there's probably a few other options, but I'm not a environmental or civil engineer, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, so certainly if we're talking about new buildings, we'll have to assess our existing buildings, but we'd want to definitely take that into account when we're planning for them, hey?
Yeah.
To put them up a bit higher.
Yeah. If we're going to do new buildings, well, they'll obviously raise the ground.
Yeah.
The compact ground, bring it up to whatever level they think will suit, the engineers think will suit.
Underneath
Ground.
it.
Yeah.
So it's new buildings.
Yeah,
It's new buildings.
Hey, I'll just add in there that the reason we've got those high banks is because I can't remember if it was the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, but they came up with 3 options for us because of the flooding stuff. The cheapest option was the banks. The most expensive options was going to be raising the piles on the marae, and so we never went with that one at that time. I think Puerta might have been still the chair of the committee, so that's the reason we got the high banks, but not to say we can't revisit it again and come up with another option, because I think piling may be a better option, particularly for new buildings. So yeah, just throw that in.
Good.
yeah.
Yep, so everyone have a A3 sheet?
Yes.
Okay. So these are just a few options that I drew up. These possibly are not the only options. There's possibly others out there. It's just to kind of get you thinking. About what the possibilities are. So the first sheet, this one. So this is just what's already here. So this is just looking at what the site is currently doing. Yes. Yep. So roughly the floor areas of the two, the hall is very at 530, and the existing wharekai kitchen is roughly 360.
Can I just so I get it in my head as we're going through, on your front page, on the corner at the end here, you don't have it coloured yellow.
So that's that may be owned by the marae, but that's on a different section.
That's
So-
what I wanted to know whether it was part of the marae or not, because I think it kind of makes a difference to the websites. And everything.
Yeah.
I always thought that whole place was
So
the marae, but maybe not.
no, it does read it, but it is. So we're the marae is across 2 blocks.
And that's
B2 and B3. I think.
Okay, cool,
And B3
thanks.
is that small one.
okay. Thank you.
But I mean, if an entity owns both, you can build on it. Yeah. So yeah.
Because our origins.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. So that's just the existing one. Okay. So this option 1. Cool. So essentially it's keeping the access to the site where it is, keeping the hall where it is, and also the wharekai, the wharekai, and then getting rid of the kitchen, and then repurposing the wharekai as a multi-purpose facility, or to be quite honest, it could be whatever you want it to be. I just put that there because I wasn't sure. And then building a new proposed wharekai kitchen and ablution block on the grass area out there. This one would be good because while they're building the new proposed wharekai and kitchen, we can still use the existing one. And then they will just fence off what they're constructing. Then once that's done, then they'll fence off around the existing wharekai and then do that work. So then that means that there'll always be a wharekai and kitchen working on site. Yep. I did increase the size of the wharekai and kitchen a bit
It's quite a big square meter.
to reduce the number of sittings that have to be done.
Yeah.
So typically Te Puni Kōkiri, they don't encourage marae to increase in size unless they really need to. But I feel as though if we're already doing multiple sittings, it's kind of like a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just because we want it, it's more of a need. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the
Yeah, so
ablutions-
just to talk on that one, currently that's with our 8 tables, 20 people at a table, that's 160 in the dining room, eh? That's what the sitting covers.
Yeah.
This one will cater for,
We haven't decided that
Yeah,
yet,
not sure
guys,
yet.
but
oh,
Yeah.
But more.
yeah.
Yeah.
it'll have to be more.
Yeah. Yeah. So the cons are also, I put a canopy over. So that's just to protect from the weather, or it could potentially have lights under the bottom side of it, because it's pretty dark out here. Yeah, so that could be like a health and safety thing as well, just guiding people from one building to the other one. The car park will stay where it is in this option, but yeah, some options, other options that could be moved. The cons of this one, this will not be cheap, but it will last the marae for a very long time.
Can you give us a ballpark number?
Ezra, are you still there?
Plus it'd be.
My boss is on
safety
Zoom,
as
I'm
well.
too sure. Maybe he's gone. No, I'm not too sure.
I think it's the price that's going to be
Yeah,
the factor
yeah.
in the price.
Does how much money does Whānau Marae have? Like, does it matter how aspirational we get with these? Does Whānau Marae have enough money to cover the whole plan?
They do fund whole projects.
Yeah, they do fund whole projects and they
They've
do
seen
fund
one like this.
new builds. They prefer need over want.
Yeah.
And so because this is quite a need, yeah, I feel as though this would take priority over some of the others who just want a bigger kitchen, things like that. I had a talk to one of my friends yesterday from Waimarama Marae, and Waimarama, they got a very, very generous funding. And so I thought there was a cap on the funding, but maybe there's not after hearing their funding. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a case by case basis. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of it goes down to how well, there's a note from Ezra there.
So $3,000 a square metre.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 1.2.
Thanks, Ez.
Come to the.
Yeah.
Is that all? That's all worry about
And
that.
and that's just.
Yeah, correct. Well, that's 1.5 when you pull in the ablutions as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you give that price on the kit, like on your square meter, right?
Yeah.
Does that include is that all taken into consult with the stuff inside as well?
Like appliances and all that sort of stuff?
It typically depends, it's kind of a project basis, but we'll take into account the mechanical services and things like that.
Oh, yeah, the construction side.
Yeah.
But not the
It
kitchen
wouldn't be
side.
fitting.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. That one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, kitchen fit out would be additional.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks,
Thank
Ezra.
you.
Kitchen floor would be what?
It's just fit out.
Yeah.
Fit out. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Move on.
So option 2, this is my more conservative approach to things, just to kind of gauge where the whānau is at. Yeah. So all of these are probably not good ideas, but they are an idea.
And we need to talk to it. Yeah, we need to talk to it.
Cool, okay. So this one is essentially just working with what we currently have. So it would be renovating and bringing up to standard the wharekai, and then demoing and probably rebuilding a new kitchen and ablution block wrapping around the end there. So this is the more conservative approach. Obviously, there will still be the multiple sitting issue. This is not terribly future-proofed for multiple generations in the future. Yes.
Yeah, let's just scrap that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess the greatest consideration with that one is that it would take our facilities out for a while, like those renovations.
Yeah.
But I like it because the wharekai is accessible from the car park. People can duck into that before they come to the marae.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Oh, cool. Yep.
But I just wanted to put out there. So doing an option like that has an impact on our ability to, you know, if our wharekai's been renovated,
Yeah.
then we've not got a wharekai.
You know, when Omahu got built,
Yeah.
we cooked in cokas
Yeah.
under tarps.
Right.
Years, yes. And how many things do you have here?
Yeah.
You get all those portable things
And,
nowadays.
and school's gonna be accessible soon.
And you like that one?
No, I like the
Just
place.
Good idea.
Toilets, yep. Oh, yep. All right. So this one, option 3. Yep, 3. Okay. So this includes the relocation of the existing wharekai out over here. And turning that into a multi-purpose facility. So that's supposed to be toilets here, the hall has those toilets still. And then we would build in the existing location of the wharekai and new wharekai and kitchen and ablution block. That covered porch area, so that's intended to have a roof over it, but kind of just flanking walls and no front wall. And so that could be used as overflow for seating people or for cups of tea or whatever you want to use it for, really. Yeah. So with this option as well, we would need an alternative wharekai during construction, because the existing one will be relocated and we won't have one on site. But we kind of thought if we were already raising the buildings up, it would not be impossible to relocate it. So this is more showing you that just because a building's there at the moment doesn't mean it needs to stay where it currently is. Yeah.
So that one there, on our option 3, you've actually designed it to come closer to the wharekai.
Yeah.
That one there, is that what we're seeing there?
Yeah.
Or is that in the same place?
Oh, the existing?
The kitchen,
Oh, the kitchen. Yep.
is that
Yeah.
closer to the wharekai or?
Yeah, it is. So I think that, yeah, so that's the existing
Yeah,
wall
thank you.
there. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it is a bit closer.
And
That
the
doesn't-
multi-purpose is the old one, the old kitchen moved.
The old
Dining.
dining. Yeah, the old dining.
Dining, because the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah,
It's got nothing to move in there, is there?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, but that's all right, that's nice.
You know, that looks all right.
Yeah, so that, because this is such a big marae and we can sleep so many people, and sometimes the hui are not overly big, so we don't need a space that's this big. So in my head, I was thinking, well, if we had this other multi-purpose space, maybe the smaller hui or the hui that don't necessarily need to be in here could be in there. It could be, the acoustics would be better, it would be warmer, more comfortable. Yeah, just things like that.
Yeah, well, we used to talk about having a concertina across there,
Oh, yeah,
smaller it, making it smaller.
yeah, that's an option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about that.
But you can, the only thing with this multi-purpose, see, my question, my big question to you is why are we still in this area? Why aren't we moving away from the road and away from the creek?
Yep.
And we got this whole paddock out here.
Yep.
You know, like spinning it around.
Mhm.
Because my problem with here and a problem with their dining room it's facing the west and we get those southerlies hard. So perhaps if we could turn it around so it's none of it's facing those.
Yep.
Those areas, even out there, we get whipped by the wind out there when we're out there.
Yep.
Yes, getting it away from here, because you've got a whole paddock there and it's higher ground.
Yeah.
Just the thought.
Yeah, because that could be a very valid option as well, is just moving the whole complex over.
Still have to raise it, eh? Because
Yeah.
the water is,
Yeah.
the water is still gonna go there, whatever
Yeah.
water comes over this bank will go there anyway. You moving, it's not gonna solve the problem.
Yeah.
It's stopping the water or raising our ground.
Yeah, so possibly it is a mixture of the two
Yeah,
as well. Yeah, because like things like that, like the southerlies,
Yeah.
like it's hard reading that on a piece of
The
paper.
last
if we don't
one,
know.
last time we had a breach of the bank, say, and those banks will breach.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get a flood anyway.
yeah.
The drainage along the Pinnacle Road. What's that like, the drainage?
Here, it floods.
Floods everywhere.
That's why they'll give us this to relocate.
This bit, but it's not-
We are in need.
Can we actually still
We're desperate.
That was one of the options. You were on them.
And so this last one, option 4. So this one is kind of a combination of all the previous ones except the bad one. So this one repurposes the existing dining hall as a multi-purpose facility, and then the ablutions will be between that and the proposed wharekai and kitchen. The 2 porches can be used as overflow for extra seating, and the existing hall in Whanau will retain some of their toilets. So there's toilets for this building as well. And the covered access ways, yeah, just for health and safety and comfort, I guess.
I like those porches.
So can we have proper car parks? 'Cause it always,
Good.
it always, it's all muddy, we get bogged in. Yeah, proper car parks.
That would be the time to sort it out.
Yeah, so we can have proper car parks, and even the car parks don't actually have to be right there. They can be moved, or if there's an option that you prefer just in a different location, we can kind of move the whole option maybe into that paddock and turn it a bit to protect against the elements.
So the multi-purpose facility there is the dining, existing dining room.
Yeah.
And the covered porch is the kitchen.
Yeah.
Cooking area, I should say, yeah. I like that one.
Me personally, I quite like this one. The only issue I might have would be the evolution block being there somehow, just for the cooks, for the chillers,
Oh, yeah.
being so close to the toilets. It's, however that's going to get laid out. That's my only issue that I might have for that.
Yeah.
But I actually like this plan,
Yeah,
and I like the having the extra covered areas there for the excess
yeah,
people that might be needed, and also having an area for cup of tea areas.
yeah. Because with this option, when I laid it out, I was thinking, well, the main driveway is coming right through here.
Yeah.
And so maybe the rōpu's not even coming to the hall. Maybe they're just going straight to the wharekai. And so
Yeah.
there would be 2 main entry points.
Yeah.
So there'll be one coming through here. But for the people who are coming from the hall to the wharekai, there'd also be one on the side
Yeah,
as well. Yeah, yeah.
because I like that thing. And I like the covered area, that the old kitchen part, because that will still come in handy for the cooks.
Yeah, exactly.
And that will still be, my only issue would be the evolution here,
Yeah.
for the kai.
Yeah,
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
That's maybe we readjust that just a tad somewhere.
yeah. No, that's okay. We can
But I
do
think,
that.
yeah, but I think that's for me, that I like, that's a better plan out, that way.
Where would you put your ablution blocks, right?
Yeah, that's why I just don't know.
Where that covered porch is at the bottom. This side of the.
Yeah, actually, we could probably do that and then just extend the front covered porch a little
Out of
bit
it.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's another option.
yeah.
Alex, just a question. On the ablution blocks and all that sort of stuff, is that just the ablution block? What about, I was sort of talking about the septic part of it, because our septic out there
Is that
is
it?
condemned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would a septic come with it?
Yeah, well, so the environmental engineer, he would kind of look at where it would be best located on site. Yeah, so the current one that we use, we're using for quite a few whakakai and marae developments. He's actually very good at not just putting it there because it makes sense. He kind of thinks about what the purpose of the site is, how people will actually use the site. So he kind of tries to put it in an area where people don't typically go. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Where the toilets are in number one there, where they are. You know, in that 101 plan, where the toilets are there.
Yeah.
If we utilise another septic tank area, wherever that may be, and it was mentioned that they may upgrade these toilets here.
Yeah.
So there's already a septic there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, those septics are about 50 to 20 grand each. Cheap ones.
Yeah, I think that's why the intention of this is trying to get a broad scope of everything sort of going into real fine detail, just so that we don't in 2 years like, oh, there's a toilet over here. Why didn't we know about that when we were doing a septic thing?
Mm.
Yeah, just so that we can plan ahead when we do services and things like that. It's yeah, probably from an infrastructure point of view more than an architectural. Yeah, thinking about everything really helps so that the engineers can plan things out well.
Mainly, I like but would there ever be intention to rent out or hire out that multi-purpose facility without access to the marae or the wharekai?
Yeah.
And if so, if the ablution block were on this side, on this side of the proposed wharekai, is it like external access? Like, well, I guess it's just gonna make sure it would be, so that if they're only using the multi-purpose, then we don't have to let them into the wharekai or the big.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, like thinking about things like that, like what do you want the facility to serve as in the future? Like if you do intend to rent it out as a, I don't know, as a space, just thinking about what facilities the group could have available to them and things like that. Like this building is easy because it's got toilets in it already. But yeah, those other ones. Yeah.
With that ablution block, would it have showers as well or just toilets?
Probably, yeah, so that will probably be the main shower and toilet block in this one. Will kind of just become secondary. Yeah.
For the nannies.
Yeah, so this one will be accessible. We will probably have accessible on those ones too, but these will primarily be accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this one too, that one. But is there a possibility of, and it's just the thought of just cutting it all off, have your car park in here, and the car park at the back, cut this all off, and the car park at the back that's existing now, had that for the cooks.
Yep.
But the visitors come in here, we cut the whole thing off, so it's private, the
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah.
So we don't have people, like I said, wandering over when, wandering over this way, and they shouldn't be wandering in front there. Because it's too Whānau's domain, sort of thing, Because kids are running around, they're running around and they're coming around and they're accessing, they're coming through that front door.
Right.
Yeah, perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
Does the marae lose income if we do anything in those paddocks? Is the marae making income with those paddocks?
Well, yes.
We lease them.
Yeah, so we currently lease those in paddocks.
But you don't need it's car park for visitors because your cooks will still use this one at the back here. They'll access that one, but they come in here and they come along this way. This will be all cut off in private. The whole complex, and perhaps you might want to put kids playing games out there. I don't know. Or garden.
Yeah, because I think how you do treat vehicle access, I think people just go there because they think it's accessible. But like simple
But if
things.
you open that paddock up, because
Yeah.
people now are parking and they're going right up their road.
Yeah.
So if you open that paddock up, they know they got their paddock and they can go and then park.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that one.
That one was my preferred one. I just didn't want to tell you before.
Great minds, eh?
So just talking on that, that was when Alex sort of was able to brief the Marae Trust a couple of weeks back. That was our Marae trustees preferred option.
Yeah, just the tweaking there, I reckon. Tweaking the
Yeah.
evolution company.
Tweaking.
I think that's the setup. You know, just as a cook, you know, if there was no evolution there, just so we have a chiller, we can just actually drive them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, those kind of things.
Or could we like
Chiller, yeah, we'll
and
just
we
say
like chiller down the other end and drive in that way
Walk in, walk
through
in, you
the
know.
cooks.
drive.
Cooks can't park into the chiller.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be easier.
yeah. But cool.
But we don't have big enough waste.
So we were going to break out into groups, but there's probably not enough of us to break it. We're just going to have one group. But there are all these, I guess, questions or points that we do need to look at. So we'll just start taking through those. Okay?
Are we talking here, wharekai?
No, so this, all these points, everything on the section of land.
Right.
All right, so the first one, what is the non-negotiable in the Marae development? Example, what cannot be touched or altered during the development?
I'm just checking.
But you had an option for that, eh?
Take the whole roof off. Lay the ceiling and then put the roof back on.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, yep, ceiling.
yeah, done.
Yeah.
Anything else?
What are we doing? Options.
The
Things
first
number
one.
one,
First one.
what cannot be touched or altered?
And we've decided.
Is there anything?
No, I want to rule change.
Yeah.
Cool. And so I think just hearing Auntie Bubba's comment about possibly moving the whole complex, so that's kind of, well, I guess anything can be touched or altered except the ceiling maybe.
Because you're going to get the sentimentalist side, aren't you? To say,
Yeah.
What are you saying?
We're
So
right here.
I want the argument in Mahanga because I think we just keep the name. Put the name on the new building. As opposed to, well, we could just save a stud from there and put it in the new building and now we still got a bit of the old.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, and it's saying we're prone to flood right here. And the only way we can change this is take this building away and raise the ground. That is the only way you're going to stop the flooding in here. There's no other way.
Yeah.
There's no other way whatsoever. The banks are not going to save us, like we're saying, that they'll blow the banks down there, the water's going to come directly to here. And all that water comes from up the head of the toe, it'll come in by down that end, it's come straight through. So yeah, I'm in favour of new buildings.
What about in the dining hall?
What cannot be touched in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, okay, then, all right.
That's it.
Okay. Cool, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Don't touch every net to party.
yeah, not hiding.
Okay.
The But, you know, there is an opportunity for us to reuse that dining. room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Still got good old bays for the guys, you know.
Chance to use it. Use it.
Reuse it, yeah, repurpose it. is-
Oh, repurpose it, yeah.
Like you've got there, that multi-purpose thing there. That's the-
Yeah.
100, it's a great idea.
Otherwise, you know.
Well, this is probably the easiest marae I've done.
Well, I can imagine my mum.
There's only a few of us here.
There's only a few, that's fine.
I know.
It's got the compliant one.
We didn't tell you how you reach one.
So that's the first one. The second one, what parts of the marae complex currently work well and why do they work well? And can these be implemented into a new version of the same concept? So possibly there's something that works really, really well here on the marae, but is it that thing or just the concept of that thing? So we can remake that in another form.
Yeah, the biggest concept.
That's the only,
The Whānau tables.
I think that's the only argument you'll have, isn't it? But the tables.
So, yeah, Elmer just put up a comment there about the whānau tables.
Yep.
I think that worked well. And, yeah, what's the feeling of people in the room here
Yeah,
around
yeah, they do.
continuing with our
Then we should
whānau
keep
tables?
those.
You have to keep the.
Well, I'm against,
Somehow.
I'm against, I'm not against it, I think it's done its day. Because we haven't got the people coming to run those tables anymore. So we're relying on one person or two people to run those whānau tables.
I think
Yeah, I
I
agree.
concept of doing from the kitchen to through the cubby hole to the table.
The
That
flow,
be
you mean the
kept.
flow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that be kept, but
Oh.
as Bubba said with the whānau tables, it's just a handful of us.
Yeah.
We're doing all the tables.
Yeah.
And we're doing
Yeah.
that plus everything else.
And the trustees did agree on changing one thing to do with the tables already, which we haven't implemented
Yeah.
yet. And that was that the marae would get a whole set of
Everything. but the
the
concept.
platters, the bowls, all that sort of stuff. So instead of the cupboards providing that, because they're becoming, like you're saying, different sizes, everyone's got different things. So to make it easy for the cooks and, you know, not looking to where they have to go after you finish with them, is that we would provide all the bowls and the platters.
Okay.
So that's a change from the table.
And then a lot of marae now are getting away from the one sink, one cubby hole now. It's just sort of a
They need
couple
the
of
steamers,
massive,
dishwashers.
openers with just a couple of big sinks, 1, 2, 3, I've seen it in the marae.
I guess that.
Because when you're, you know, health-wise, you've got to get the stuff that's gonna last and the stuff that really clean, yeah.
You'd also need a sterilizer, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
With the.
Oh, yeah.
What about a dishwasher?
But then you would need as many.
Yeah.
Not, you know, not that.
Those commercial.
Commercial
The
dishwasher.
commercial sterilizers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like the concept. I love that we have the cupboards, but I do understand that you know, we don't have a lot of the people that do come back for them. But somehow I'd still love to just keep the families in charge of something, whether it be the tablecloths or the hakari dinner set.
Yeah, but that's all very well if they
Yeah.
were here, but some of them aren't.
Yeah.
And they don't want to relinquish them.
And we have had recent changes to tables and those people don't come to
Yeah.
it.
And I'm saying that, well,
But yeah.
it's a new hall.
But not only that,
Dining hall.
it's like you said, if we take the name away from that table, right? We already said that the people are not coming now,
Yeah.
so if we just make it like, that's the marae gear, maybe less will come,
Yeah.
because they're not committed to come because of the name,
Yeah.
Well, they're
And
committed.
that's
and
what
they're
I
not
don't
coming
want to
anyway.
lose.
eh?
That's what I don't want to lose.
Yeah, so we might end up with, I'm just saying, because I am a bit of a fan of having all the gear in one,
Yeah.
but we might lose
Yeah.
more people,
Yeah.
because they're not committed to come to their table.
Yeah.
But they're not coming
But they're not
anyway.
coming
No, yeah, I know all of that, but what I'm saying is, who's here now? The people that are coming now might come less.
So I think this is a bigger discussion, around our kawa and that.
Colour.
No, that's true. So it doesn't need to be settled in this discussion here. It will be an ongoing.
No, food for thought.
In a great world, I'd love them, but I just to take it over, you know,
Yeah.
but I just don't want to lose that concept of, oh, we don't have to go there anymore, we don't do the tables. Yeah, but then, you know, it's still it's a kind of a good vibe in there when, oh, you know, they're all trying to search for their nice forks and it's a freaking headache.
Yeah.
But it's a good vibe too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and whether it just be on the Hakari day, because it's mainly the main day that we get everybody. Next reason I said maybe we could just get them to supply the Hakari set and a tablecloth. You know, it still gives the family something.
Yeah.
To think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm cool for everything else, okay?
All right. Yep, that's good.
In the way to driving up to the back door of the kitchen at the moment, is it a non-negotiable? Because I guess lots of stuff comes
Can
into
we read the rest of it?
What was the rest of that? What was the
Well,
rest
it's
of
all
it?
that up chat.
We can revisit that.
Yeah.
We can revisit that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bigger discussion.
Yeah.
But our discussion at the end, cool, balls and platters.
Does getting trucks,
We still haven't got them.
trucks directly to the back door of the kitchen
Now,
need to still happen?
Yeah, and just make it so.
And they have on the new places. Back door for rubbish and bags.
Yeah.
Still a little bit or something.
In terms of bringing on groups, how is that working currently?
It's not.
It's not, okay,
It's not.
yeah.
Just to be honest,
mm,
because they're just roaming in and out.
Yeah.
It's like open park out there,
Mm.
and they shouldn't be. No one should be out the front there. All other maraes are separate. Eh?
Yeah.
You don't even go there unless you're coming through that Whānau.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
We need a design for that.
Yeah, just shut it off.
Cool. Yeah, no, so we'll need to work on the flow of people as well as traffic.
mm.
Yeah. Right. Anything else currently working well that would like to maintain?
No, just better if you put it
Cool.
I think what Barbara mentioned before is sort of important from new builds, and that's, you know, just the positioning of entrance ways and stuff because of the winds.
Yep.
Yeah, it's important we get that right.
Yeah, and the access to the wharekai for our visitors.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay. The importance of multi-generational design, example, able to cater for the babies right through the kaumātua. Put a high value on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
What can you?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
So in terms of
What
that,
would be
just
an
like,
example of that?
There's nowhere to change. There's nowhere to wash the baby.
yeah, so it's like
Right.
parents' room or kaumātua room
Yeah.
or
Okay.
it's just,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
We've got porches. We've got new porches now.
Yeah, we've got that other complex. Where is it?
No.
Everything can go in there now.
Cool, okay. In what ways do we want to improve or change the overall site plan of the complex to enhance and reinforce our tikanga, kawa and protocols? Example of that is what Auntie said by taking.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any other changes that?
I just like to, like, if we're gonna build us a new park, let's build us a marae, not a hall. Let's get some of our people on the walls.
Yeah.
At the moment, you know, because it's a hall, we've got no people in here. Probably that's why we're freezing now.
Yeah, I think that's
I
a good
think
idea.
I think we need more options, eh?
Let's build us
What it's
a
gonna
proper,
cost
what we
us
call
to
a
bring
marae.
on.
Yeah, I've always wanted to bring photos.
It's very
of
embarrassing,
the
so
video.
it's-
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's start.
Yes.
I'll bring mum over tomorrow.
Yeah, so we're going to move the mattress room into a separate area.
I think that's okay.
Where?
Oh, I mean,
Like she's talking about this where those wharekis are going to be kept, they're going to be kept in there.
Mm.
Where they are now.
Apparently,
So you're going to move them away just in case.
The idea was just to make shelving and then to extend the shelving where it is now.
Yeah, no, I was just talking about like
If we
when
get
we
sprinklers
start
in
getting
there.
sprinklers and all that, is there a chance that we may need to move it out?
Oh yeah, if you store your mattresses and your wharekai in the multi-purpose facility, do
Okay.
you need sprinklers in there? No, because it's
No,
not a
there's
sleeping
No, I
area.
don't think so.
right?
Yeah, no, because it's just to preserve human life, essentially. That's what the
It's not a
sprinklers are for.
sleeping area.
Yeah, so I mean, the mattresses can stay in there because there's a full wall, but we'll just have to coat the wall.
Okay.
There's not
So they
putting
can stay
sprinklers
there.
in there.
she would hardly.
Yeah, will the sprinklers go in that room?
Oh, I don't know, I have to check.
Potentially because they're so flammable, eh? Mattresses.
I'd already asked that
Wharekai.
question. I'd already asked that question, she said yes.
What's that one?
Yeah. the
What did
sprinkler.
I say?
Sprinkler.
Yeah, that's sprinklers.
We'll have to check
Just a
that one.
thought.
Because in terms of the whānau, do they need, because of their age, do they need special environment to
Replacing?
preserve them?
Ideally,
Or no?
but we don't
Okay.
have them. The only thing we need to do that we have control of is to lie them flat.
Right.
As a suggestion for the museums, we have to stop rolling them up.
Yeah.
Lying them flat, but any other thing, we don't have any other control on heat, you know,
Yeah,
I mean, we might be able to add it, but I think it'd be expensive.
yeah.
Mm.
Because quite possibly we might have to put an HVAC unit in here anyway. So yeah, that's something that I'll put down about the care of whānau as well.
Because it's quite a really important collection of whānau here.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of how people currently move from the hall to wharekai, so is that working? Or it's.
Well, it works.
It works,
But does it work well?
it gets wet and, you
No,
know,
it's-
yeah, and
yeah.
it rains. And there's no cover, but it's not a
No
great
cover.
distance,
Yeah.
it works except rain.
It's
cold.
only that the toilets are way over here, so if the toilets are over there,
Mm,
they've got to get back over here to the wharekai.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not a-
yeah,
Mm.
cool.
I think that discussion's like in the middle of nowhere, eh? Because we haven't decided what we're gonna build.
Yeah.
You know, we're discussing people walking, but are they gonna walk without any build?
No, they're
No.
not.
I think it's just understanding like the relationship we need between each space, like which ones need to be grouped or clustered together. So it's less about what size they are, what they actually look like, and more about their relationship to one another. And
Yeah.
thinking about, so at this stage, circulation is a big driver for how we design things, like thinking about pushing the cars away and changing the flow of the people. But if there's one building here, one building here, people will always follow other people in how they track between the two buildings. So it's just trying to find out how we want them to track between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Walkway,
one.
covered walkways.
Cool. Okay. Yep. All right. What do we want developed during the Whānau Hui development? So we want a new ablution block, new wharekai,
Yeah.
Yep.
anything else?
Oh, new wharekai.
You got right.
New car parks.
Oh, yeah, new car
I think
parks.
it'd be nice
Yeah.
to see some plans if, and maybe the costings, you just.
Isn't it cover for this Hui and for this Whānau Marae, the wharekai and evolution block is our funding application, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, so it's essentially anything compliant.
Yeah.
Related or tipping related. So essentially we can include moving the cars and, for example, putting something out there so people don't park out there.
Yeah.
So it could be something as simple as changing the surface finish, adding a garden, putting some bollard, just things so that when people see them, they're like, oh, maybe we're not meant to go there right now. So just kind of increasing.
I think we definitely need to look at what Bubba's brought up around the, what we do what the flow of our porphyry or
Yeah.
whakatau is.
Yeah.
And that we're making sure that those spaces are safe when we're doing those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point that we need to follow up on.
Maybe a signpost.
No, they don't. Follow.
Put a fallout up, then no one's gonna come in there to park up to go and.
Yeah, so
Like how other marae, they have the, well, not palisades, but they have like the walls going around.
no, yeah.
Things like that, like they don't need to be
Everything's
super
got
high.
just got
Yeah,
Yeah,
Marika.
yeah,
That's how that cup is off.
yeah, yeah, so just looking at things like that.
There's a thing out there where people can sit under the, get out of the rain, and it's obvious that that's okay.
Yeah.
yeah, so certainly one of the main considerations for the ablutions was having some place that our manuhiri could go to when they, when they arrive on our marae, because that's,
Yeah,
a lot of people, that's what they're looking for. They've done a long journey, they just want to go and go to the toilet, so. Yeah, that would be a prime consideration, that wherever we position those ablutions, that they're not involved with coming onto the marae, that are there, so just people can use it.
yeah.
Just a question, maybe. I know this is not about getting a new whare anyway, but what's the possibility of getting plans of what it would cost to either relocate or get a new whare with the new wharekai and ablution? Because if we're going to have to put sprinklers in at the costing of the ridiculous price that could cost, then we could probably get that put into the new build.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, it's just an idea. I know we're here for the wharekai though, but I'm all for the new wharekai and ablution.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're also talking about the whare quite a lot, obviously. So maybe we need to put that into an option.
Yeah, because quite often how we do with projects that we never do one project, everything at the same time.
Yeah.
It's always staged. And so right from the beginning, we kind of have a clear idea of what each thing will involve, but we kind of just leave a placeholder there, but we still integrate it into the whole concept so that it's not kind of sitting over there by itself. Yeah, so I could probably look at that.
I think that the second point about not closing down during construction, like pretty important.
Yes.
It depends on how long it's going to take, because I mean, people can find alternatives. You never come back when you close down for a long time. I don't know how long complete rebuild of that will take.
That's true, because there's already inconvenience in Whānau now, like people are having to take their people to other maraes and with all the money that's going on now around the maraes. There's lots of maraes closing at the moment.
Well, people go home,
People are taking them home too now.
And that's
what
I'm gonna say.
It's a big thing.
And then once they start that, then you're only going to need a minute of marae really.
Yeah, they don't come back. I mean, people started going home and their whānau, because they, open their eyes a lot. People.
I remember when Marcine, they took her back to Pedro's, and they took her back, but we did the cooking here, and the kai went there.
Yeah.
Because you don't know the way, it's always ways.
Somebody else. Who's going to give it to you, bring it here.
I think just thinking, because if we do end up relocating the whole everything, we'll be without everything for a little while they jack it up and then move it. So yeah, it's just trying to gauge what we are open to, but after today's Hui, we're quite open to anything.
And I think you're right, we can find a way of doing things. If it's got to be done, it's just got to be done.
Because
And let's just do
the
it.
school will be available.
True.
You know?
True.
Tent up, put a tent up, yeah.
I'll go back to mine.
I think that's
I know.
triggered the thought that, you know, buildings we do put up, if they need to be relocatable.
Like the big buildings. I mean, you can relocate most buildings. It's not impossible. Some,
Yeah.
some you have to take in a few bites just because they're too big for the truck. But they are put back together in their original state afterwards.
Yeah, they can move.
They could, you know,
Yeah.
when you take it the long term and climate change and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
They will mainly pick up,
Yeah.
Museum hotel.
move to higher ground.
Yeah.
If we believe in climate change, we're not going to have, we're going to have drier.
Dry the floods.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about the sea coming to meet us.
You just.
But yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, the technology these days is pretty amazing with what they can do with the existing building.
Yeah,
And what's
Yeah.
possible.
yeah.
Yeah, no, sure, you move anything these days. I mean, have
Yeah.
a look at the museum building in Wellington on the Te Papa side. They moved
Yeah.
it down the road and across the road,
Yeah.
10 stories high.
Yeah.
So,
So
Yeah.
you can do anything these days.
And also, I think the fact that we could possibly move it for remediating a flood, that would also, even though it's going to cost more to move it, the fact that we're kind of trying to not make it flood.
What are we moving?
We won't move it because you don't live.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're moving our
We're
park.
gonna be fine.
Oh, no, Auntie, Net suggested kind of just move all the buildings over that way, but it's a higher ground. Or we could just lift them all
Just
up.
lift them.
Yeah.
Build a new one.
New one. I think we've talked about the next one already.
So, yeah, we definitely need to have a fuller conversation with those who, from our pie around that, so that we
Yeah.
can map out, you know, what's thicker.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that will flow on to the third one, which is what is the preferred flow of traffic and people on site? But we've already talked about that quite a bit. But did we want direct access? Like, for example, how the cars are currently parked super close to the wharekai. Do we just want to push that whole thing back as well? Yeah, okay. Oh, and then that preferred relationship of spaces, so about the wharekai having an ablution block accessible to it, but also potentially the multi-purpose facility needing access to the toilet block as well, in case that is
Privately hired out.
yeah, yeah.
No, I think we worked around that by saying, leave that ablution block where it is, but move the chiller.
Oh, yeah. You think that'll work?
Cheaper.
Okay,
Yeah, cheaper.
all right, cool. Yeah, that's better.
That's on option 412.
Yeah. Yeah, because Vanessa was talking about the ablution being so close to the chiller. Move the chiller to easier.
In what way? In what sense? What
Well,
sense?
she didn't want the chiller, where all the food is, close to the ablution block.
We hear this one, you
Yeah.
know, that one there, the chiller's there.
You can't see what the problem is.
It's a different wall.
Yeah, well, that was her problem. It was closer to the ablution blocks. So Kiwi sort of asked, can the chiller just be moved?
But you said it shouldn't be a problem because it's in a different building.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
You go, sort of.
But we're
Oh, to
all,
me,
we're all going to be too from that wharekai into those ablutions anyway. And where's the door gonna be? How do we come out onto the covered porch into the wharekai?
now, from the kitchen, you'll have doors from the kitchen to your ablution.
Yeah, so there'll be.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll have doors in your, you'll
Yeah.
have doors in your kitchen going into your
Yeah.
ablution.
Yeah,
which would be built to code anyway, which probably means you've got 2 doors between
Because you'd have to,
food and refrigeration.
You would have the outside
Yeah,
access.
so there'd be like a lobby between the two or
Yeah,
something.
you could have that and you could have access outside as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Maybe
have
that would be
to
the
go
money
from-
condition.
I mean, just put it up and just move wherever.
We do, yeah.
I'm sure it can be sorted. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. All right. This one, we probably should have started with this one, but that's all right. What is your ultimate vision for Whakakapi Marae?
You have a marae,
I wouldn't even know.
it's embarrassing, you need to have a marae. Not the whole.
With a great
Oh,
kitchen,
okay.
That's a good one.
With a big fireplace.
like you would use, but they're not allowed to have one there anyway.
Then of that.
You're in a fireplace.
Fireplace for one,
Right.
Oh, we used to have a nice open,
Yeah.
now that's like we used to be so good. Giant big rock.
All health and safety.
Okay.
Cool.
Physical knowledge, yeah, just a good working Marae, I think is great. Yeah.
All right, this next one. To what standard would you prefer to develop the site? So when you do a building, there's a few different scales. So there's the bare minimum compliance, which is, it ticks the boxes, but it's not terribly comfortable, or nor is it future-proofed, because the compliance ticks are always going up. Or there's best practice, which is higher than the bare minimum, which will provide more comfort, but it does cost a bit more, but probably is the best investment. That one.
Yeah, we've done bare minimum for 2 years.
Cool. Yep. I think we've talked about this next one quite a bit too. Just how future-proof do you want the Marae complex to be? Example, do our best to mitigate future risks such as flooding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely, that would be the key concern around what I hear is to do with the flooding.
Yeah.
Is that part of number 2, like the best practice? Risks involved, is that all that same thing?
Yep, generally it is. Yeah, so compliance, you don't really need to get compliance to mitigate future risks in terms of flooding or things like that. But yeah, like health and safety requires compliance. But yeah, I guess it is the same thing because you're still future proofing it.
When we talk future proofing, what are we talking about?
So that's just, where do you see the Marae in 50 to 100 years? So how durable do we want the complex to be?
Well, we don't want our mortals to go through this again, eh? We want to give them 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Be
good.
the standard.
I would like to see ours come up to, there's a lot of potential in hiring out your maraes for people who come for holidays. To have it family orientated, so that, you've got a proper laundry, you've got the sinks, you've got where you can hang your washing out, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
that's where
Evolution.
Yeah, we can get money from, we can use, because Whakakapi is close to, it's close enough to Mahia.
Yeah.
Good.
And Whānau are starting to use the Marae as little farmers.
Yeah.
Solomon farmers
Yeah.
come quite often, and Errol and them.
And if it's small enough, they can use that utility one, they don't have to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check, true that.
Be a good
Yeah.
idea, actually.
Yeah.
So we haven't actually talked about what we want in the evolution block. But
No.
those kind of things have come up.
Yeah, that's good to know.
But in saying that, if we're gonna build a new kitchen block and everything, evolution block, surely we have to strive for the best we can get for our money.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah.
Hey, so we shouldn't even have to discuss this, what's gonna be top line.
Yeah.
Hey, so we're not gonna go in and build us an evolution block and throw jib water in, we're gonna put a party glaze in whatever we have, right? Hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we are going, when we build, we're gonna build to the top line of our, we can afford anyway. So I don't even know if we should be discussing that. It's gonna be top line.
Yeah, but
Hey.
it's keep in mind the potential of for our marae or hiring it out to tourists.
Mm.
The next one is future aspirations or thought around what happens if we need more space to expand.
We've got a whole paddock over there.
We got enough.
We've got plenty.
We got enough.
Okay.
You know what?
The only other way we can discuss, like Bob said about the water, the only thing we can do, apart from like I said before, you would have to buy on a new site. You'd have to move your marae to a higher site. You know, we don't have to live here. Because the path's already been moved probably 3 times already to get to here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And as it moved, it came down lower and lower and lower.
I guess that's where the relocatable can come in as well. Wow. Surely in the future, the technology is just going to keep getting better anyway.
Yeah.
So they can move anything.
Yeah.
And the last one, what is the importance of sustainability and care for our taiao? So there's quite a lot of buzz in the industry about sustainability in general. So I guess it's just what are our thoughts on sustainability on the marae?
I think it, you know, that talking around that wider environmental things like having gardens and stuff there, that then comes down to, you know, having a certain population in the community to be able to sustain that stuff. And I don't know whether we've got that at the moment. I think if we get to the next stage, we're, you know, around whakakainga, then there's probably a good discussion for that, which is a future need. When we're talking around the future, it would be looking at investigating whakakainga on the marae, and therefore, you know, if we've got people here, then we can have things like gardens here as well.
What about in terms of like solar panels?
Yep.
Or like solar generated power?
You could get them all on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, get heaps on here.
And even I think like types of material, like are we even talking about the materials that we use to build that have different functions, retaining or transferring heat, or so that you don't have to use as much electricity to heat spaces. I mean, I know it's probably a much more expensive option, but it means that the power bill's lower and our impact on our tile is less.
A lot of that's with the building code now, like, you know, like the banks and stuff, you build a new building now, they've got to have that in anyway, all that kind of stuff underneath lining. But yeah, no, good point.
And I mean, we're already collecting the stormwater and reusing it, so we'll just keep doing that as well. It's another for sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Awesome.
So many thanks, Whānau. As I say, this was more of an introduction session for us all around this kaupapa. We'll make this recording available to all the farmers. They can have a look. And I'll ask Lisa if she's got enough information from out of today to be able to
I think so.
take things forward.
Yes, do we need anything else?
Yeah, that's a good start, thank you.
Yeah.
We lost Aaron along.
Thank you for your time.
So on that note, I'll.
But there is, oh, we brought something up.
Oh,
Yeah, no, that's good.
That's another thing through for today.
Yeah.
Well, it's cold here.
So there are going to be another couple of sessions that we're going to have on this. For those whānau who did miss out on being able to be here today, but I'd like to thank you all for coming along today and sharing your thoughts with us all. So, on that basis, I'll close us out. Eh? Go across to the wharekai and nō reire, tō mātou mātou I te rangi, te whakiko. Tēnei te mihi kia koe pā, ko koe, ko manaki, ko te aki a mātou. I tā mātou kore roriro I tēnei rangi. Nō reire a mātou noi kia koe, ka homo ai tō aroha, tō manaki, ko te aki ki ngā tangata kei Māui ana, me nā whānau pani o te musi. I roto I tēnei wā pōri. Koe nei mātou no kia koe ki me tō ingoa tapu. Amen. Kia ora rā. Thank you. Amen. Kia ora mai. Mātua.
Mātua.
Thank you, Ezra.
You just leave them over there, you've got church tomorrow.
Cup of tea.
What do we do? Do you want to leave things here?
Yeah, just leave them there because I'll move them around anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Just leave the chairs, we've got church tomorrow, so I'll move them around.
Just leave them here.
Yeah. I'll move them around. Maybe you can stand it. He was a coming out. So we only have to run one